Their goal is to bring you a podcast that sounds more like everyone else than anyone else.
We need to accept the fact that we are like every other podcast.
We want to be special, but we're not quite there yet.
It's the Zennial Odyssey podcast with Remy and Bobby Rox.
All right, everybody, welcome back.
We are here.
We're back, everybody. It's been a few weeks. We have been going through our own illnesses. I had the food poisoning. Rem got COVID.
Yeah, we had those back to back.
But hey, you know what? Here we are. We're back on the air to do more episodes for you guys.
Feels good. Glad to be back. Missed you, buddy.
Oh, I know. Missed you too. So in the meantime, I did an interview in person with my friend Steve, the musician. Did the interview with Jason Cox, former Marine, works with Veteran Services. He talked a lot about how he's been dabbling for a couple years in cannabis and has started getting into psychedelics. And he talked about the Netflix documentary, How to Change Your Mind, which I know you said you haven't seen yet.
I haven't seen, which I'm a little ashamed of because, I consider myself to be really progressive with stuff like that.
Please see it. It's just from the educational, from the informative standpoint. The episodes are wonderful, and I really would like to do an episode on that, but I would rather you have seen it first because
I'll do it this week.
Things I want to talk about that my takeaways that are just magical. Some of the stuff I experienced, but I figure the first thing we can do is I did go on the Facebook page just to let people know that we were going to do like an episode between season 1 and season 2.
Yeah.
So I figured that can be the first thing we do here. There's no format. It's very loosely structured. We're just really talking about kind of
existence.
Yeah. Things that our takeaways while we're recording season 2, things that we can be happy that we think people can look forward to. We also can talk about things we've learned from season 1 and our interactions with people. By the way, just so you know, as of today, season 1 as a whole, 223 downloads. I think that's phenomenal.
That's good, man. We're getting there.
Yeah. For people who don't realize, I mean, it's September now. We're getting into fall. The first episodes dropped right after Memorial Day. So we're coming up like 4 months. So literally the podcast has been out on the interweb for 4 months, and we have 223 downloads, and we're literally doing nothing.
Yeah, just letting it organically float for a bit.
Yeah, like I know I say we have a Facebook page, but it's not like I sit there and I'm like always on it. I'm always pushing it. I'm always networking with it. No, I do a little bit of that, but it's more just like
let the fire catch.
Yeah. So here we are. I mean, at this point of this Tweener episode, we have 16 completed episodes for season 2.
Yeah, I know, crazy.
I still have that lofty goal of at least 30 episodes for season 2. And then we'll release it. There are going to be some differences. We have new intros and outros. I did a little bit of it messing around in season 1 with promos. And we're going to have, at the end of this episode, we will release the trailer for season 2.
Yeah.
I think that'll be phenomenal. That'll close out this episode. It's about little over 2 minutes long.
Nice.
And it's got some highlights from season 1. It's got some introductory things from season 2, things you guys can look forward to. We give shout outs to people who have either followed the podcast,
supported, anything. Yeah.
And we're right in line with what Rem said. Like, he'd be happy if we had 5. We have 3. 4 months in, we basically are adding a follower a month.
Yeah, no, that works, man.
Yeah. Again, because we've given those shout outs before, the followers are in no particular order. It's Jamie Stew.
What up, Stewie?
Jamie Stewart, Rebecca Harvey. That is an alum from our former employer that we both worked at. And then our friend, but my really good friend, Stephen Hayward, the musician, started following it. He is looking forward to, so I asked him about promoting his music on the YouTube through us and through the Facebook page. But he said that the co-writer and the co-creator of the music he's doing with the music what we're doing with this.
Yeah.
Like, he's learning as he goes, he's mastering, and they're going back in to re-record everything and master it.
Oh, nice.
So he said he wanted me to wait for that. And
that
I'm
makes
like,
sense.
okay, all right. So there's a little teaser for everybody. And our good friend who we interviewed twice, Steve Hayward, also known in the greater Bridgewater area as Goonie. He said that we have to wait till everything's mastered, and then I can start putting that stuff out. For people that we both know that are friends with him, you're already seeing it because he posts videos and he does a lot of live stuff. But the mastered stuff is amazing, and you'll be able to find it on SoundCloud. So what are some takeaways that you have?
For what, season 1?
Season, I know we did the wrap up for season 1. That was the last episode right before Labor Day. That came out, and we did talk about it then. But now here we are, 4 months later. We're working on season 2. So what are some takeaways you have?
Well, first of all, I got to do the most basic thing and kind of give you the shout out for birthing this little mutant baby. It's been fun to be a part of it. For me, listening back to season 1 specifically and some of our older stuff, it's funny how easy it is. Excuse me. Still get the COVID cough a little bit. How easy it is to scrutinize yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are moments when I look back and I'm like, oh man, I'm coming across as kind of vanilla. But that's just an egocentricity, because it doesn't matter how I'm coming across. It's how the unit and the show comes across. And I think it's really balanced with different opinions and different viewpoints. I think for me, the point I'm at now is where you reached like 2 months ago, where you're really excited to interview people and bring people on board. That's where I'm starting to get, because I'm starting to learn that the most compelling, that what makes this format so compelling is not the same voices. It's a multitude of voices representing different sides of arguments and discussions. And even just talking to people, like you said, your buddy is an amazing musician. And, the Marine opening up about his trauma and talking about psychedelics.
Yep.
As much as I wasn't as involved with those episodes as I would have liked for a multitude of reasons, just because I wasn't well, you weren't well, it just shit didn't work. Mm-hmm. But I have to give you props for those two, because they're really, really, it's solid work.
Oh, thank you.
And I like the fact that potentially we will sit down with people here who will challenge us. It hasn't happened, and that's fine. I'm not looking for it, but I am looking forward to it.
I think it creates the environment that we have envisioned.
Yeah.
Like if we truly say if it's a safe space, it should be a safe space for people who have differing opinions from ours.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect, and that should be something, and it gets us away from the toxicity that exists in all other formats. I really feel like one section of even podcasts is about being adversarial.
Yeah, it's to have a good podcast. Yeah,
where people can, at worst, agree to disagree and just politely explain their side of it, and maybe we get some common ground. And if we don't, at least we're not going to be assholes to each other.
Yeah, and it's again, at the end of the day, it's adults having a discussion.
Right. We need to get back to that.
Yeah. That's ultimately what it is. I think that the podcast is sort of a callback to when humans broke bread together.
Yeah.
I think that's become a dying thing. We still do, but it's not what it was. Someone will have a phone in their hand. There's just always outside stimuli now.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the podcast sort of brings it back to the idea of 5 people sitting around a campfire.
Yeah, and what I want to stress in that bringing an adversary, these are people that we're friends with.
Yeah.
These are people we have connections with, and it's just we have different points of view, and it's important to show as many sides as possible. To show that, I mean, we live in a world where it's really about putting you in a category. Putting you in a category. Categories, yeah, they make it...
Unfortunately,
they make the world... On the one hand, they make the world easier to navigate, or they make it easier to kind of figure things out. But on the other hand, it divides people, and people go to their quote-unquote respective corners at some point.
Yeah.
We see that playing out in our country right now, and I think that's dangerous.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're sitting in a boiling pot of just tension.
Yeah, we literally we're at a point now where the country, for example, the states that have made abortion illegal,
yeah,
you see that there's people like moving there, that we're seeing the areas of the country where people are moving to that align with their
color, the color of their fucking party.
Instead of just living where you're at and just kind of navigating the world like that, and then understanding that you're not always going to be around people that just hive mind. I think that, and I think ultimately that's a step where we are heading in a dangerous place.
Yeah, I think we have been for a minute. You know,
it's the next progressive step that's like, uh-oh.
And I think for a lot of people right now, the fear in discussion is that you have 2 opposing sides that are going to discuss something until it explodes into something more.
Yep.
And I think a format like this makes that less possible in a way that's dangerous to people.
It lets us. I think when it gets to this part of it, I've said before, whether we've done it on this show or I've just said it to people, I think it's all bullshit, and we still live in monarchy.
Yeah.
The difference is we don't have kings and queens. We have corporations that have more influence.
Speaking of queens, hey.
I know, yeah. Rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth. Depending on who you are, is what your perspective is. And what I mean by that is this is a thank you for bringing her up, because my wife's family is from St. Lucia, and St. Lucia is a part of officially they're a part of England.
UK,
yeah. They were run by Queen Elizabeth, the monarchy. She's on their the Eastern Caribbean dollar. I think that's what it's or ECC, Eastern Caribbean currency.
Okay.
And I believe they've already like the day she died in St. Lucia, I believe, like, you're seeing it in other countries in the Eastern Caribbean, like they're already petitioning to be sovereign.
Yeah.
You know, break the monarchy. So they may have a differing opinion about what's gone on than maybe people in England.
Yeah, I guarantee it. I mean, that would be another example where it would be nice to talk to some opposing sides that
yes.
understood and represented a little better. You know, for those, if we just kind of brushed over that or something too quickly, the Queen just died. I'm sure you guys are well aware of that by the time you hear this. But it's interesting. It's an interesting moment in history, because I think there are people, especially here, who look at their monarchy as archaic, as systematically set in place with old world values that somehow still get allowed.
And people fail to realize that we just changed names and faces and who has that power, but it's
nothing else has changed.
Yeah, it's a very similar system to what has existed.
Yes, I think there's a split right now where some people are like, you know, it's that old Sex Pistols, like, what? God save the Queen. Like, the idea of mocking those in power has always been, I think, you know, somewhat seductive. But it's interesting because half the world, I think, is like, we don't give a fuck, and half the world's upset. You know?
Half the world's like that psychiatrist in the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp trial.
Yeah,
isn't she dead?
Just, belligerent.
Yeah.
But, you know, above all else, I do want to say it was a loss for them. I'm not going to shit on anybody right now. I'm not going to undermine whatever. You know, she was 207 and she ruled for a long time. And Now we get that. Now we get Charles. Well, we don't get Charles. The world gets Charles. And I think that's going to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, and we got to see through Meghan how racist they were. And
crazy, right? That girl. Yep. If you watch the footage of the funeral, she's smiling, bro.
Oh yeah, she's thug lifed.
She is thug life.
She is thug life.
The glasses have dropped down.
Yep, and Harry's like that too. Because kudos to Harry, by the way, for sticking by her.
Yeah, man, you got to be loyal, you know. But yeah, now she can safely drive without Princess Diana syndrome happening to her.
Oh, too soon?
Don't drive. No.
Is it too soon? Yeah, 25 years. Is it too soon?
Don't drive through any tunnels, Meghan, for a little bit. Yeah. But here's the thing. The death of the Queen right now sums up the overall vibe, and it's like everything's interesting, but it's fucked, and it's getting darker and weirder. You know? It's been 2022 has been, for me, one of the most challenging years I've had in a long, long, long time. I can just say that. There was a nasty breakup for me. There's been a lot going on. I have to move. It's been shitty, you know? And I don't even know what made me tell you that it's been shitty.
I think you were trying to tie it into 2022 and it's just another like example of 2022 being
you know, it's the idea. There was this joke when 2022 first happened where people were like, oh, it's 2020 part 2. And it was, though. Like, kind of was, because that was the start of COVID when everything had kind of screwed up. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you know, even me and Bobby being sick for the last 2 weeks. Like, it's been a long year. And I think that now that we're heading into fall, there's been a lot of loss, too. You know what I mean? There's been a lot of people that have fallen this year.
Yep.
I think that, at least for myself, I want this year to end. I know it means nothing significantly. It's just a date. But I think I'm ready for 2022 to sort of lay down and give birth to a new year.
So that's how I was in 2019. 2019 is the worst year of my life.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And I was fully, to this point, I was ready for 2020. And after 2020, I said it could have been worse. It could have been 2019.
No shit.
Yes. Though it was better. It was an improvement. Maybe not for the entire world, but it was for me.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It's funny. 2020 was one of the best years of my life, and no one understood that. But my relationship started, and it was healthy at first, so it was nice to have some companionship. And my buddy took me to Hawaii. That was fucking remarkable for 10 days. Like, I didn't get sick during that. So, like, I had a really good 2020, but that's why I knew something was coming for me, because there's always been a balance.
And something was around the corner.
Yeah, and 2022 was that for me, and it's still that for me. I mean, Christ, I got 3-4 months left of it or whatever. So fingers crossed, but yeah, thank God for this. Ultimately, my takeaway from this is it's therapy. It's incredibly therapeutic.
Yes.
It's nice to be able to talk through your shit at least once a week. Bobby talked about how, like, yeah, we have a handful of listeners, but it's like, I feel like we're growing a small family situation here because these people are loyal. They keep coming back. And that's all we're asking for is like, but everyone bear with us too. We want emails and messages. We need to know what you guys like, what works best with you guys. What sticks out.
Yep. And so for everybody, again, we're tweening. We're tweening. And essentially one thing that happens, and I don't want to tease, I don't want to spoil it because it's one of our episodes. I got the idea for one of our episodes because one of the lovely listeners reached out to me.
Yeah.
And they shared a book with me, and I read that book. I dissected that book. I did some research, and then we literally did an episode on it where we gave our thoughts on kind of the way they presented things. So there's kind of a teaser for, I think it's going to, so what I'm going to do is much like season 1, I'm going to release 5 episodes, the first 5 episodes. They're going to be released all at once. And then after that, every episode will be released on a weekly basis. That's going to be the first episode that gets released by itself.
Nice.
Yeah, so that'll be episode 6. And again, giving the shout out to Jared Burrell, because he was the one who reached out to me, and I think that was wonderful. He reached out, gave some feedback. I think some of his very important feedback he gave is, by my own admission, I did episodes out of order when I released them in season 1. So there's things that for continuity purposes don't make sense. What I did with season 2 is that's what we're doing. We're releasing them as we recorded them. So things will, for continuity purposes, they make sense.
And sequentially, it will make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no obscure references or references to episodes that we did before that are getting released after. Yeah. That was my faux pas, and learning on the fly, that's a part of it.
I mean, that's it. I think that one of the first things we said is we need 3 months.
Yeah. And I know
3 seasons, not even months. We need 3 seasons. Like the first 2 especially are essentially just throwing everything at the wall.
Yeah, we're throwing things out there. And there is a point to it that we're throwing out there. Because,
we try to keep a core idea for each.
Yeah, we're building the foundation for us, for people our age. Can I tell you one thing I saw that I'm seeing on Facebook that I'm just like, what the because I'm seeing it on the other end now. So I will admit that, yeah, Zennials, like I consider it a participation trophy for people who are just pissed off that they don't fit in, but they get labeled in to certain get millennials or Gen Y or whatever, and they see it negatively. But then on the flip side, I'm seeing reels on Facebook of people talking about Gen X from like 1965 to 1985, and I'm like, no,
what?
No, that's not Gen X. Like, I'm like, come on now.
What the fuck?
So here we are. On top of all that, we're the Zennial moniker aside, we're trying to just look out for people, specifically people in our age range, give ourselves that voice and a platform to listen to feel like you have some place to connect, or to tell us how you don't, and give us your 2 cents, and we'll openly talk about it.
Yeah, man. Nothing's taboo to us.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts so far? Because the goal, I said the goal was 30 episodes. So we're about halfway there for season 2. How do you think season 2's been so far?
Season 2 has been stronger. I mean, obviously.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I think that for season 1, every episode was like this right now.
You're right, yeah.
Not in a bad way.
Yeah.
We needed to figure out how to do it, but it was way more loose. And we approached the second season with themes for each episode, and we both came in with thoughts and notes and shit like that. And I think that stuff is going to evolve even more. Because, basically, first season was a garage band getting together and jamming their first song.
Yep.
And your first song is going to be probably a cover. It's not going to be spectacular because y'all aren't vibing yet. Now, me and Bob go back, and we have the vibe and stuff. But it doesn't mean you have the vibe on the radio for other people to pick up on. So, yeah, I think second season is a lot stronger. It's a lot more structured. I think that it flows a lot better, a lot more organically.
Yes.
And that I think that ultimately, like season 1, first song, season 2, second, third, fourth song, season 3, your first record's ready.
I was actually gonna use a musical analogy, and my musical analogy was gonna be we basically season 1. Tom Everett Scott had just become the drummer for the Wonders.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, but when they put out the record, they're putting it out as the numerical Wonders, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Oneaters." Yeah, we're the Oneaters transitioning into the Wonders.
Yeah, and not fully knowing or understanding yet. And I still think, for me, half the time I listen to myself and cringe. So I think by season 3, I will be more like, okay.
And I think for me, because I'm the one who edits.
Yeah, you go through all the footage.
So for me, that is gone now.
Yeah.
Like I hear myself and I'm like, all right, whatever.
Nice.
I hear it in that moment as just a voice. And is the voice of the right level? Does it have the right richness? Does it have the right tone? And that's another thing that I would say we have done a better job on the fly from a technical standpoint is I've also been learning. I've been, watching tutorials.
Yeah, listen, man, Bob's the one who tells me where to and not no fucking way of do it this way, but he has the mics perfectly set up. He's figured out how far they need to be apart from each other. He's figured out the windscreens. He's figured out all the mastering. And I know a lot of people out there who are good at editing are like, cool, so do we. But Bob works his ass off. Bob's married. There's a lot going on this dude's plate. So the fact that in the last year you've mastered this is really impressive, man. But from my side, I want people to know how easy I have it compared to you. It is. Bob, brings me in a couple times and we do episodes. Bob's the one who then cuts through them and figures out the levels and cuts out the shit that might be meandering and stuff. So props to you, man.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. And I do keep those. I do keep them mastered so that we have just stuff to go back on if we want to, either for promos, either for just throwing in shit somewhere.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I find because my life is so busy and it's so hectic and it's just so, what it is between my 9-to-5 job and yes, being married, I honestly, I find this therapeutic for different reasons. I find it therapeutic when I'm editing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Some people would be like, what? And I'd be like, yeah, because it's completely opposite of my day to day.
You get in the zone.
Yeah, I get in the zone and it gives me an escape. It does. It gives me an escape. And I do appreciate the fact that I have this and it's still considered a hobby. But much like you and I were talking about a few weeks ago off the air, I mean, the podcast seemed like a hobby that will take over your life. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, man, because it's not unhealthy.
Yeah, there's nothing bad about what we're doing here. We're at worst, we're two people talking into microphones, staring at each other, but we're just sharing and exchanging of thoughts and feelings and schemas about the world.
Yeah, no, that's what it is, man. And I guess there's a certain level too where it's like, imposter syndrome, where at first for me it's like, do I even deserve do I deserve this form? Am I that interesting? And yeah, I am.
So one thing
that was a joke, by the way.
I know in season 1 I really wanted to get people on, but it was hard for several reasons. We got more people on. We'll have more people on in season 2, and
we can. By the way,
and most of those
we can aim high.
Yeah, most of those people, by the way, said like, "Well, what's so special about me?" And I'm like, I think there's something special about you, and if you don't think it about yourself, hopefully by the end of this recording, you will.
Yeah,
I know I've talked to. I talked to my brother Tim, and he said that I'm dull, and I'm like, well, I'm going to show you how you're not dull.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think that's just like I said. I think it all comes from imposter syndrome a little bit.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are like, wait a minute.
I'll tell you one thing I have noticed through the editing is I've gotten rid of my radio voice, and I'm still using a projecting voice, but it's not so much
false.
Yeah. It's who I am. It's just I'm doing it differently, but I'm not hey, like Phil said, like Pantera said, I'm not being something I'm not.
But what people might not understand is the reason you started doing that was because none of us could get a word in edgewise on the radio show. It was one of the best experiences of our life, and I kept trying to bring up, guys, let's roll a ball to each other so we all have equal time to talk. The problem was it was 4 excited people in a studio who just felt like we needed to this is our old radio show, by the way, felt like we needed to talk over each other to be heard.
Yeah.
So Bob kind of developed a voice that would carry, and you know what I mean? So I think it was born out of necessity, but yeah, you don't need it here.
No. Sometimes I feel I do if I'm just messing around with the little control doodads here, but I also have the limiter on there. And that's the other thing I figured out through my practice, my kind of researching and doing this is most people say that to have the best audio quality is having like the soundboard I have, even on the Zoom P4 digital recorder we have, to make that do most of the work.
Yeah.
And not doing most of the work when I have it in Audacity, which is what I use to edit the software.
Yeah.
So I feel like we should, I know I use the quote unquote disembodied voiceover guy.
Yeah, you love him.
For a lot of the promos. Yeah. But I think we should definitely, you and I should definitely do some cutting of promos.
Yeah.
And then, as ourselves.
Yeah. Original promos.
Yeah. Original promos,
Yeah.
Introduction. That's the other thing. I did share that with you, right?
Wait, what?
Like introductions to episodes.
I don't know.
They are promos, but they're introducing the next episode. So that's another difference in season 2. I literally took what I felt was the most compelling audio bites from an episode, and I made promos which will introduce the next episode, and I'm going to put those on the end of an episode. So for example, there's none for episodes 1 through 5 because they're all getting released at the same time.
Makes sense.
However, well, I lied. There's one on 5.
Okay.
On episode 5, there's going to be one at the end of it that'll let you hear a summary of what I felt was the best of episode 6. And then episode 6 will have it for 7
yep.
and so on and so forth. So that's another level of
polish.
that I've added to the podcast for season 2. And I think that it's, again, much like us growing the audience, much like us growing in our comfort level, talking to one another, podcast style. Again, that's another thing that I feel will add to the quality of the show.
And I'm like, I had asked you a couple different things about like potentialities. And one of those was like, would you be interested in talking about some true crime stuff and some supernatural stories and shit? And I think that I've planted a lot of seeds, but I haven't taken the initiative yet. Because I'm like, I'm going to send you the story and then we can talk about it on the air. So I want to start doing that too, because I think that to an extent we're still in we're going to be in the sticker period for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think figuring out that if we step away from the normal and do some weirder stuff, and like me and Bobby, we're New England people, and there's like a lot of weird, supposedly mystical places around where we live. So talked about us going out and trying to like get experience and then come back and tell a story.
We live in the southern tip of the Bridgewater Triangle, which is one of those places, Freetown State Forest.
Yeah.
A very historical and dark place.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's one thing that we can talk about on an episode. We can talk about the history of just the hauntedness, and I know that's not a real word, but like the hauntedness that exists in our area of the country because it's the oldest part of the country.
Us and New Orleans are like the most haunted places pretty much in the country. And I mean, does that mean me and Bobby are gonna fucking tell you that we arm wrestle ghosts and shit? No, but I think that a lot of people up here have had situations that they find difficult to explain, at least. Just like, what was that?
Yeah, there's a reason it's called the supernatural.
Yeah, because we don't get it. We don't understand
or
it.
paranormal. It's
outside of the normal.
Outside of the normal. Yeah, it's outside of explanation.
And I think, I wouldn't mind shooting out some broad arrows to some bigger targets and being like, listen, we don't have listeners really. I'm not going to fuck with you. Would you come on, please? You know? Because when I used to get people for interviews and shit, that's how I would do it. I'd hit them up on Twitter and be like, let me sit with you for an hour and pick your brain. So I think there's a lot of potential. But for me, and I have to honestly, I'm going to own this if we're talking about shit. This year's depressed the fuck out of me. This year was a hard year. Like I said earlier, it was a hard year for me. But so I feel like if that veil needs to lift a little bit too, because I've had my head up my ass this year.
I would say for me, the year's been a mixed bag.
Yeah.
The first half of the year was more of a roller coaster. The second half of the year has been more just, I wouldn't say terrible, but it's just been down.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Yeah. And for me, and most of that is professionally, that I won't go into.
Because you should.
Yeah. But I've had this podcast. I truly, genuinely built the foundations for it in February. And it's pretty much carried me through this entire year. It's given me something to focus on and work on. It gets my mind off of the stuff that could take me down.
Yeah. Well said, man.
Yeah. So I know one thing, and this will probably be season 2. No. This will probably be season 3. Is that I have the opportunity to go to Vegas for a weekend. So I'll definitely be doing an episode out there.
Nice.
Out in Vegas. I'll
That's
definitely
cool.
bring this stuff. And I think for season 3,
Yeah.
that's when we'll take the sonic leap as far as one thing I know you've asked me about. I'm starting to look into digital cameras to start actually recording it as a video.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And my hesitancy in that is obviously we use XLR microphones. So figuring that, because when I say camera, I'm literally talking like a Canon, the Canon Rebel EL3. Like that's great camera, 4K. It's great for live casting. It's great for podcast videos. But at the same time, I want to incorporate my equipment into that. And that may be a challenge. So it's about finding something that can work inside of the equipment. And then from there, instead of sitting across from one another, we'll sit on the same side of the table.
Hold hands.
Yeah, we'll hold hands, sing Kumbaya and all that. And we'll start a fire. We'll have the fire extinguisher ready because we're inside so we can roast marshmallows.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, I think at this point, we can just debut the season 2 trailer.
Do it up, man.
And
we hyped it up.
Yeah, we'll also release it as its own. It's going to be a release by itself. But I think first and foremost, it needs to be released in this episode because that's why we want to come on to Tweener. I wasn't sure. So I've done research on how long to take between seasons when you do seasons on your podcast.
Okay.
And I've seen everything. I've seen like
a week, a month, 6 months.
A week, 3 months, six months. And it doesn't even matter if you release episodes every week. It doesn't matter if you release episodes every month, whatever. No one really knows. So for us, we're figuring that out too. I'm going to shoot for October. Early October.
Word.
Early October, we'll start releasing season 1. So by the time this makes it onto the interweb, you'll probably have a week to 10 days to wait for season 2 to officially come on. And a lot of stuff we talked about is really like a natural progression from season 1. But like you said, Rem, we took the time to sit down and actually formulate the structure of the episodes more.
Yeah. Makes a difference.
Yeah, and it does. It makes a difference for flow. It makes a difference for how well I think we are in our discussions on the episode. But yeah, without any further ado, everybody, this has been that Tweener episode. We're glad if you checked in, and hopefully you stuck out for this much, and you're going to hear the trailer for season 2.
Enjoy.
Yes, enjoy.
In the first season of the Xennial Odyssey podcast, Bobby Rox and his occasional co-host and friend Remy invited you with them as they spoke of travels, trials, tribulation, and the adventures of navigating life as members of the Xennial generation.
Basically, I'm a professional idiot. That's really what I tell people.
You can interview me, but I'm not going to be uncomfortable.
Hi, it's me. I'm Remy. Send help.
Why said help?
I don't know.
Bobby Rox here, joined as always with Remy.
Hi.
And
I'm eating munchkins. Yeah, you see Bobby's face
Yeah.
of disappointment as he leaned in to press that.
We don't know exactly where they're going to end up, but that's the whole point.
What are your long-term goals and wishes for this thing?
I feel like season 2 should be, well, definitely the two of us.
Yeah, I don't want to get fired already.
But as we close the curtain on season 1 and draw open the curtain on season 2, Remy and Bobby Rox just want you to know, you ain't seen nothing yet. After an up and down first season,
It's tough, isn't it?
It is, but
let's be honest, it was mostly a down. Regardless, they decided to run it back again on more adventures, telling stories and tales of what it actually means to be a member of the Xennial generation, with guests, listener feedback, and hopefully an improved auditory experience.
Sherry Lynn Nicholas, welcome back. Thank you. Stephen, welcome.
How we doing?
Jason Cox, welcome to the Odyssey.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Shout out to Jamie Stu, Jared Burrow, and Rebecca Harvey.
Welcome back to the Odyssey. It's Bobby and you and me.
We're just making it and letting people find it.
Just so everyone knows, he was sniffing his fingers, not the microphone.
If 5 people listen to this do it, we've saved some lives.
So please join them for their adventure during season 2. Welcome back
Welcome back, as always.
to the Odyssey.